Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to talk about Arbor Adventures, and we are in session 10. And we're going to continue to talk about what's going on with Sun Elf Rogue Assassin Dolos. All right. So at this point, Dolos is doing his thing, and they have just slain, him and his crew have slain, at the cost of the life of Parak, his ally, who is a half-elf ranger, and who he picked up when they were guarding a caravan. And Parak never built a strong relationship with Dolos. She built a strong relationship with Grax. So Grax is pretty sad about this. And to his credit, Dolos, took the time to mourn and really, express sadness about it. And what was really interesting is, so at this point, they're going after the treasure trove, the Hoard, in the Green Dragon's lair, because the Green Dragon is now dead, right? So they need to move fast to find the Green Dragon's lair, because if they don't, somebody else will figure out that you can't hide in a Green Dragon's body. It's huge, right? And so they have to find this Green Dragon, right? So, which I thought was, fascinating. And so they go to find this Green Dragon's lair. Now, I'm giving them one roll a day to find it, and they have to use survival, right? So this goes to Dolos, and he makes the roll right away. He finds the lair, right? So they find the lair, and then they start poking around, and it's in this small mountain, right? In the green forest. And so basically they, and I said, you're able to scout it. And what you find is that it's extremely dangerous. There's at least 3 traps before you can get to the lair. And it's extremely dangerous. And, and actually, you're able to investigate it enough to where it's going to be 3 different tests: an acrobatics test, an insight test, and a performance test to get all the way through the lair. So immediately Arosarn is like, hey, there's going to be not a lot of room to move in there. There's going to be lots of, dangerous traps. I'm actually small and fast. I'm built for this. Let me do it, right? And so Dolo steps up and goes, no. You were sent here by your father to talk to Forge Lord Shram. You weren't sent here to try to infiltrate a dragon's lair. I will handle this. Now I'm like, wait a second. Gold Dragon Master, right? Great, brave role-playing for your player character there, but you don't have any of these skills, right? The most you're going to be able to roll is a 6, right? You have to roll under a 6 to succeed. It's not going to go well, right? So we go in, right? And the first thing that he has to do is he has to do an acrobatics check, right? Now, I did say, you have the boots of speed. I'm going to take you up to a 9, right? And I was like, but I want you to and I was like, and he's like, well, what happens if I fail? And I was like, well, the reality is where, the first trap is these cliff edges within this larger cave. And if you slip on it, and there's like bats and guano, it's very sticky and it's pretty treacherous. And if you fall, you're going to fall to the bottom of the cave where all these rock shards are. And you're going to take either probably about half enough to kill you or enough to kill you, right? This is treacherous, right? And he's like, all right, I'm ready. And he makes the roll. He just makes the roll right under 9. I was shocked, right? Next, he comes to the insight roll, and he finds this area where there's rock, and he has to brush off the rock, right? And, he finds this area where there's rock, and when he cracks the rock with his boot, right? And he finds this silver underlay, and there's these glowing runes on the underlay. And so it's a puzzle, right? And he simply needs to solve the puzzle. And I said, but, there's an infinite number, and the real cost here is delay, right? And the reality is you're separated from your team, and you're in this horrible, inhospitable area where it's dark, and there's poisonous gas from, because a green dragon lived here. You don't want to be here that long. And he says, and so he bought this, so Crown and Skull has this deal where you only have 10 slots for equipment. So he put a ton of points. I think he put about 10 to 20 points into this bag that he has. And basically it's a belt, and it gives him 6 extra slots, right? Which is pretty awesome, right? That's really nice. So he gets this extra slot, right? And so he can carry more in this one extra slot. It doesn't give him extra slots to destroy things, which actually that's interesting, because I'm figuring some stuff out as I talk it through. All right, so he has this thing, and this is so he in his pouch he has a potion of true sight, and he said, if I drink the potion of true sight, can I solve the puzzle? And I was like, yes, 100%. True sight will show you exactly which runes need to be turned, right? And so he does that, and so he's able to get, so no roll there. That was brilliant. He was willing to sacrifice his potion of true sight, which I was really impressed that he was using his character sheet well. I didn't talk about this in the last one, but when he killed the green dragon, at this point, we're using Crown and Skull, and Crown and Skull lets you take your hero points and put them into skills, into magical equipment that makes your one thing better, right? He's becoming a better and better and better assassin, right? Not just, oh, I found what do you find in Dungeons and Dragons, 5th edition, if you run it straight, right? Oh, I found this plate armor, and it's +3. But I'm a rogue, and now I just clank around because I get a +3 on AC, right? Like, it's rough, right? And so I really feel like, so all these points. So we actually, when we go into an attack round, we actually talk, right? And the talk is like, okay, you have, your weapon is a D4, but it's upgraded 1, so you have a D6. Then you get an extra D6 for XYZ. You get another D6 because it's the first time. Oh, you get an extra D6 because the weapon is deadly. You get an extra D6 anytime you attack opponent you have not attacked in this combat before, and that's an assassin skill from your skull ring. So you're now at 3d6. The weapon has bleed, right? And then you also have this vicious strike, but then he pulled out something else, right? And he was like, and so we were like 5 layers deep, and he pulled out this other thing. He's like, oh, this allows my weapon to be increased from a D6 to a D8. And it was a part of his character sheet that he was remembering, right? So I have a knowledge of what that player character can do, but the player character's knowledge of their sheet is higher than mine. That's always the way it should be. And I wasn't positive that would happen running Dungeons & Dragons lore with Crown and Skull rules. And so I'm just so blessed to have this Gold Dragon Master who's tracking what's happening and is really invested in the story, right? Like, he wants to be there. No victims, just volunteers, right? Like, and it just makes such a huge difference, right? And I'm really thrilled at how the campaign is going. It is really spectacular. It's really, really, I really love, that part of it. But at this point, he gets past the insight check. Last one, and this was fascinating. I can't wait to tell you about this. So he gets to the last test, which is a performance test. And why is it performance test? What's happening, with this performance thing, right? And so what we find is, in the performance test is, it's the last thing he has to do before they literally walk into the dragon's lair, right? And so at that point, what he needs to do is, he walks into this cave, and in the cave's about 40 feet long, and in the center of the cave there's this 30-foot pool, and in the pool is beautiful, and there's no poisonous gas here. This is one of the few places in the mountain that is very clean and pristine. And in this pool is this glowing water, and it's only about 2 feet deep, so there's no threat of drowning, right? But there are these stones that are moving in the center, right? That are, the stones are moving around in the center, and he realizes that these stones are moving in a pattern of a song that he's heard sung by a bard. And so what he has to do is he has to complete this dance, and the dance will take him across the stones, right? But if he fails, he will fall into the water. Now, he's certainly not going to drown there, right? And the water isn't like, red as blood or glowing toxic green. It's literally, pure blue with this white translucent glow, right? And and by the way, I had not planned. By the way, I literally put the green dragon in like on the spot, right? And one of the nice things is the system that I have, it allows me to do that, to just drop a monster in. Most dungeon masters can do that, most skilled dungeon masters. And so, but I had not planned out the traps, right? So this is all off the top of my head, right? And so I'm like, well, I've already used the trap where if you fall down, you're going to fall on spikes. And I've used this trap where, if you fail, you simply lose time. And I'm like, this one has to be different. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, here's what this is. This water, if he falls in, if he dips even a toe into this water, he will go to another realm. It's portal water, right? And it will dump him out in a likewise cave on a completely different portal. And if he fails, I'm going to cut this adventure immediately because I don't know what world he's going to go to. I don't know if he's going to go to Eberron or Strixhaven or, Dominaria, or I don't know where he's going to go, right? And I need to stop because, and it will be, and I was afraid. I was afraid for my own campaign. And that's what I'm asking you as a dungeon master. Are you afraid for your own campaign? If you're listening to the voice of Gary Gygax, you better be, right? I did not want this, right? I did not want him to fail this roll, right? And if he failed this, I did not want him to fail this roll. And then if he failed this roll, right, everything's in upheaval. All these storylines are just lost. He's separated from his brother. He has nothing, right? Except though the hate of Vecna, right? He doesn't have Grax, and all the storylines that I set into place are gone, right? Because this is a dragon's lair, right? I can't just let him skip back, right? When you drop a green dragon into your D&D campaign, people need to die, right? Things need to change, right? It's a big freaking deal, right? It's called Dungeons and Dragons, right? It needed to matter. And so I really wanted to make this roll. So one thing that was really nice, he has the Arconyx ring. He dumped 9 points of the Arconyx ring, and now all he can do, he can only fail on a 19 or a 20. However, that's a 10% chance that the entire campaign flips on a dime, right? And all the work I had dumped in changes, right? And it might make it better, or it might make it much, much worse, right? For both the Dragon Master and the Dungeon Master. But the dice have to matter. We don't fudge, right? We've set up a system where it's not even possible to fudge, right? We don't fudge, and words have meaning, consequences matter, right? And so he made the roll, which I was extremely excited about, and he got in, and they got the dragon's hoard, right? In the dragon's lair. Now, the only problem with this is I have homework now, right? So I am working on this right now because this is astonishing to me. Nowhere in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is there a freaking dragon's hoard prepared. We had an entire book, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and it doesn't list what's in a freaking dragon's hoard, right? It gives you a bunch of tables that give you ideas of what's in it, right? And I'm like, I need a list, like a big old list filled with weapons, potions, everything, right? Gold, all of it, art, the whole nine, maps, scrolls, blah, 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 right? And now I'm working on building that up, and it's not easy. And I'm astonished that there aren't just ready to go Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition dragon hoards, right? Now, you're right, that's a significant failure on the part of Hasbro, right? Not everybody's perfect. Still love you, Hasbro. All right. Thank you so much for letting. And that's not even the end of session 10. A lot happened in session 10, right? So, but thank you so much for letting me share this with you. Thanks for going on this journey with me. In my humble opinion, every single part of that is the best parts of, Arbor Adventure, in my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.